to allow the squeezing to last longer than 10 seconds at the top. So you can easily do it twice though, and you'll find that more juice comes out. All right. Now we have our delicious carrot juice, and we can turn off the machine. Of course, it's best to rinse it and clean it, but I don't want to bore you with that now. We'll do that later. So here's our carrot juice, and we have our apple and carrot mush, and we have our fresh raw apple sauce. Now I have some apples left over, and I want to show you how to make the stewed applesauce. See, we have the raw applesauce over here. Now we're going to make some stewed applesauce. Now the apples again are washed, cut, and cored, and that's all. And you only need to put some water, and you do not cover it all the way. About 3/4 of water goes in here, and that's all. And you simply bring that to a boil and let it simmer for a little bit. Okay, meantime, our oatmeal is ready. And you can see it's creamy, it's done, it's all ready to go. Now, if you like it a little softer, obviously you can put a little more water in. If you like it a little thicker, you put a little less water and more oats. But the proportion is 12 ounces of water and a little bit, just a little over 4 ounces of oats, and I like it that way, and I think you'll find it very agreeable. It's a custard-like consistency. We'll put that aside now. Now, in the meantime, our apples are going to start up so that we can show you how to make the cooked applesauce. They can be covered until they start to boil. Now, we have to wait, because I have only one good-sized pot. I have to wait for the coffee to be done before I can put my soup in there to cook. But I don't want to keep you waiting all this time, so I'm just going to cut the vegetables and put it in a bowl. I have prepared all the vegetables. I have scrubbed the potatoes. I have cleaned and washed the tomatoes, everything organic, of course. I have cut and cleaned the celery and peeled the onions. But I would like to show you how to slice the leek to get the best cleaning activity. You want to have it so that on the long side you have the cut. In other words, you cut it along the area where the leeks are flat, so that you now are able to get at all the leaves. You notice how there's dirt in the ends of these leaves, so you need to put them under the water and wash each leaf separately, which you can only do when you cut it correctly. All right, so here we have our leek now, and then washing that. And you'll notice in the book that Dr. Gerson says if there's no leek available, you add more onion. In the place of leek, during the time or the season when no leek can be found, you simply add another onion or onion and a half, as the case may be, depending on the size. Okay, now the leek, along with the rest, is washed, and we want to cut it up. Okay, if you cut all your things in about 1/2-inch pieces, you will find it'll be easiest later on to grind them up in the Foley food mill. All right, this simply goes in the dish until I have my pot. And now I cut up the celery. Celery knobs are also mentioned in the book. Now, celery knobs are usually available in Europe, are difficult to find in this country. They are bulbs like that with celery leaves coming out the top. if you see them and find them, they're very delicious. Buy them and use them in the soup. Most of the time, unfortunately, you will not find them, and you're going to have to use the celery branches as I'm doing now. All right. Now, in the book also, Dr. Gerson mentions not only onions, but he mentions parsley root. Parsley root is the root of the flat leaf parsley. Now, as you know, there are two kinds of parsley. The regular parsley is curly leafed. If you find the flat leaf parsley, the roots on that parsley look a little bit like parsnips or white carrots. That is what Dr. Gerson is talking about when he talks about parsley roots. That is very difficult to find, sometimes available in a very short season, and if you can't find it, that's it. You simply can't put it into your soup. But you put in your onion. I think I'll put in a little bit more. The whole 2 is a bit much, so I'll just put in a half more. Now you will notice that for the soup, for cooking, I use the outer leaves of the celery. I'm going to start crying. And the inner branches you may want to leave for your lettuce. It's easier to chew. It's not as tough. You may want to leave it for your potato salad and some other things that you eat. When it's cooked, it's easier. You can use the other. I'm going to have to cover that up before I start crying. All right, now we put in the tomatoes. They don't need to be cut up much. And again, I have everything prepared, of course, washed. I don't need to bore you with the washing. The tomatoes are nice when they're ripe. They're best and they're tastiest. During the winter months, it's sometimes difficult to get the tomatoes. You may have to do without. Now let's see. The apples are now cooking. We turn those down. And we put the tomatoes in here. All right. Now we are still missing the potatoes. You can also vary the soup a little bit. One day by putting in more tomatoes. Again, in the summer, in season, tomatoes are wonderful in the soup. And if you put some extra ones in, then it is more like a tomato soup. I'm going to have to get a Kleenex to overcome that onion. Unscheduled. All right, so some season you can find perhaps more tomatoes, and other seasons you find less. You may want to put more onions and have a little onion flavored soup. There's something else you might do for a flavor change for your patient. If you take onion and cut it up in little pieces, in small cubes, and spread it on a baking sheet, and simply stick it in the oven without fat or anything else, of course, and let it brown in the oven, then you put the browned onion in your soup, and your soup will have more of a flavor of the French onion soup. So you can make little changes and variations to make your soup interesting and to keep your patient's appetite teased a little bit. Now you notice I also have some garlic prepared that will also go into the soup. Generally you don't need to cut it up much, you can just put it in. Okay, that's also good for flavor. Now Dr. Gerson says for the soup use little parsley only. He very definitely did not intend a lot of parsley to be used because he felt that parsley was high in aromatic acids, also fairly high in sodium. So we are not going to use much parsley for the soup. And that's about it. Now we need to wait for our pot. And while we're waiting for that, we will start to do something else. I prepared some beets. And I'd like to show you several ways of fixing beets. Beets are beautiful colored. Just the color is interesting because it's important to keep the patient interested in his food and to keep it varied as much as possible in texture, in color, in flavor, although you may be limited with the amount of materials that are available. Now, I'd like to show you, for instance, how we can make some beet as vegetables. In the East, this is known as Harvard beets. It's not quite the same, but you will see what I mean in a minute. You simply slice them as you would any other beets. And as I told you, I had already boiled them. Naturally, you want to cook them with the skin on and with about 1.5 inches or so of the stem on, so that they bleed the least possible. Naturally, if they bleed, you lose the minerals. So now here we have one set of beets, and now I'll make another set of beets, and we'll do different things with the beets. Okay, put those in there. We are going to make this one batch of, as I said, Harvard beets. Harvard beets, you cannot use the various sauces and flour and so on that would be used under the circumstances, but that's what I set aside these raw grated apples for. If you mix those into your cut up beets, here goes the coffee. If you mix the raw grated apples into your cut up beets, they're still raw, remember? And then you simply stir it a little bit and put it back on the stove to cook. Now the apples become like a soft, smooth applesauce, and they will provide a nice, smooth, and a little bit sweet sauce. And it's very delicious to eat this as a beet vegetable. This simply goes back on the stove for a little while to warm back up. This is not quite done yet. Our coffee is done now. Now, the other beets that I wanted to show you are going to be made up as a salad. Now, beet salad obviously needs salad dressing. So let me show you first how we make the salad dressing. Again, you have leeway. For instance, I'll show you how to make it with raw red wine vinegar. You have freedom to use apple cider vinegar, or you may also use lemon juice, lime juice, and so on. Again, vary the sauces and the dressings to help keep the patient's interest and to get some variation. I use approximately 1.5 ounces of the vinegar, and I use garlic powder. Never use garlic salt. Wherever you see the word salt, you look and go and walk and run the other way. So garlic powder, or of course you can use fresh raw garlic in a garlic press. Now